All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll call our meeting to order. This is our regular meeting for May 21st, 2020. And if everyone at this time would join me in a moment of silence.
But tomorrow's a different story. I work tomorrow, so we'll see.
That's what
It's
5:30, y'all ready to get started?
Do what?
Thank you.
That's what the
And at this time, if everyone would join me in the pledge, I'll call our meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag meeting for May of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands at this time with one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we'll go down now to approving the agenda. And I did have one item that I need to add. It is for considering the fiscal year 21 principals combining budget. And I would like to add this under the board consent agenda items under item E. So I make a motion to add this item.
Second.
A second by Rajiv.
Yep.
All right. So we have that added. Is there anything else that anyone else has? If not, I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Susan Wells.
Second.
Second by Daryl Bowers. All in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
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 All opposed? I hear none. We'll go down to the treasurer's report at this time to Eric.
All right, let me get that pulled up. Oh, I'm gonna share my screen.
Hello.
Hello. All right. All right, tonight I bring you the financials as of April 30th, 2020. The revenues this month, beginning balance about 23.5 million. Total monthly receipts about 2.86 million for total securities and revenues of 26.391. Our SEEK is down about 20,000. Federal is down about 9,000, but state is up 290,000. Taxes are up 83. Other is up, and food service is up 189,000, and I'll go over that a little bit more in the future here. And then daycare is down about 17,500. Expenditures this month, accounts payable is about $834,000. Payroll was 2.64 million. Payable is up about 109,000 when compared to the same period of last year. This is mostly in construction. The significant bills in April were 300,000, 732,000 to Preferred Construction Services. That's for Bremen Ballpark. And payroll is down 71,000 versus April of 2019. Sub costs are down 7% when compared to last year, and that's a 9.7% reduction from last month. For total expenses for this month of about almost 3.5 million. Accounts payable breakdown. About 662,000 are fixed and mixed. Utilities, 105,000, and variable expenses are about 67,000. I don't expect to see those going up anytime soon, really. Further breakdown, total AP was by, again, 834,562. General fund was about 366,000. Fund 2 and school activity funds are about 30,000. Construction, almost 300. Food service and daycare was 144,000, and sorry. The ledger balance this month is about 22.9. The bank balance about 16 million, about 913,000 outstanding checks for cash of 15.1 million. The breakdown of that, the cash balance, general fund is down about almost 1.6 million. Special revenue is down about 181,000, but I think food service, I think it's important to note that it's up right now. And actually this month it should be in the black. So that's something that really congratulate Joe and her team on, and Rachel. They did a great job in helping turn that around. So again, the overall total is bound about 1.55 million. The extended financial picture, we expect to have about 16.6 million in September of 2020. Are there any questions?
Any questions? If there's no questions, I need a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Bard
Second.
and a second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Move on down to the payment of bills and salaries. Eric?
All right. Thank you again, Chairman Rager. This month, I'm bringing $104,605 to the board. Of that, utilities about $34,000, fixed and mixed expense to $31,000, variable about $40,000. The significant check on that was for Infinite Campus of about $5,300. Nothing really significant in this group of checks.
Does anybody have questions or discussion? If not, I'll make a motion to approve bills and salaries.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of approving payment of bills and salaries, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. And we're down to public participation.
None.
None. All right, we'll move on down to the administrative report and the superintendent report, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Rager, board members. Simple thing to kind of at least touch on. I'll start with thanking people that help us get to where we are. You know, the kids have had their last day, and the staff it's I think May 26th. And so I really want to thank our staff, and from top to bottom. You've probably heard it out in the community. I think they've been pretty amazing in the adjustments and flexibility they've shown, and they've done it with the attitude you'd like for them to do it with as well. So I really want to thank our staff, our leadership. Our parents have been great, easy to work with. Community's been supportive. Our law enforcement's been great. Donna, I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later. Appreciate you guys. Anything we want, you know, you ask the right questions, but you're there and you're supportive. And our health department, you know, we talk to them every day. So just a lot of people to thank. Healthcare in general, all the healthcare folks from our school system to you guys. Thank you. What y'all are doing, front lines, much appreciated. Secondly, I want to hit the TVA thing a little bit. We've talked with you guys, talked with all of our staff. You know, as you know, we got very bad news about our TVA money. It was much worse than we anticipated. I've been over that, and you know, I've been talking about this for seems like 2 years. This coming, it's been forever, and we just did not feel with all of our conversations, of which there have been many, that it would be nearly as harsh and as rough as it is. So right now, Eric will talk about that later with his budget, but thank goodness through good planning and through a lot of sacrifice from our staff, that we have a large general fund to buy us some time. So I want to commend the whole district on having that, and that gives us some time to work on this, and hopefully we'll get some legislative help. We're hopeful of that, calling the right people. I've talked to several legislators this week, or their representatives, and I know Eric's doing the same. Our local folks are, Judge McGee, they're in the same boat. So hopefully we will get that help, and it'll give us time to make this adjustment. But right now, that general fund balance is saving us from having to make drastic cuts now. Obviously, we're looking at all possible avenues for saving each department now. We're not going to wait and hope that happens, but it does give us some time. So that's the TVA situation. I'll update you as we get new information. It may not come in until the fall, as they get back together at some point. So right now we're very, it's disheartening, number we got. And what, you know, the sad thing for the school district in particular, we've already had that huge hit. We've already made serious adjustments, and we're just getting to the point where, we're kind of coming out of it some, and it's in a rearview mirror, and our folks, the attitude, the culture has been where we want it. And now this. Now, I will say the support of the staff, as I had to tell them that, has been pretty amazing. And we're in it together. And I think they know that, and we'll get through it. It's just, it's tough right now. But we are hopeful, and we do have a strong general fund balance. So that's where we're at, and we will figure it out. Next year's calendar, the next thing I want to talk about a little bit, I'll let Lee jump in here in a second. But as of now, we're not asking you to change the calendar for next year. We're going to keep it at August 6th, I think, is our first day. I think there's a decent chance we may come to you in June, possibly in June, with an August 26th start date, maybe the Wednesday after Labor Day start date. There's a possibility the governor has asked that we also have a July start date calendar plan in case, and that unique scenario would mean that it gets quite a bit better before July, with the anticipation that it's going to get quite a bit worse in the fall and winter. So you try to get days in. That doesn't feel like something we would really want to do, but Lee will work on that. The thing about the August 26th or later calendar, if we have to go that route, if you start by that date or later, you do not have to get the 170-day minimum in anymore. You only have to get the 1,062 hours in. So you have some flexibility with that if you start late. So again, we'll talk more about that in June. Lee, anything to add on calendar now? Obviously, you've worked on this pretty extensively for a while.
No, that's pretty much it. It's just wait and see, and we'll have some type of. I think we'll have some more information from the state, hopefully by our June board meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to make a decision at that meeting whether we stay with the August 6th date or we push it back to the end of August or the 1st of September.
And Lee, I know Lee's put a whole lot of work in on this, and the thing is we plan for this right now. We're kind of planning on where we are now, which is all we can do. It's hard to know where we'll be in July or August. So it's kind of like best laid plans, and you may have to change last minute. So moving on to the next thing, not just the calendar for next year, but there's all these other possibilities that we're trying to plan for. Things like, obviously the first thing we've got on our minds is safety of our staff and kids. That's number one. Well, what does that mean? What's it going to look like having kids come into school next year? Are they going to all have to wear masks and the staff all day long? We're going to have to do temperature checks at the door. We're going to do them with busing. All that is, that's just floating around. We don't know. There's such a massive amount of questions there. How does it look if we go back with some restrictions? What if we can go back to like some stores now where they can go 25% capacity or 75% capacity? How does that look in a school system? How do you work out a schedule where that would work? And we're deep into the weeds on trying to figure that out. And I'm going to tell you, it seems like the deeper we get, the more questions, the more hurdles we find. Think of transportation alone. How do we get our kids to school if there are restrictions in place? If Kim Dukes, I think she's on here, but she was on a webinar, and I think they were talking about, as of now, they could get 8 kids on a bus using the distancing. Well, you know how hard it is to get our kids there as it is. So it seems like no matter what we think, we keep coming back to transportation. And we think, how are we going to overcome that? We are looking at using some of those CARES dollars and the GEAR and the ESSER, money from the federal government to try to do, buy some things for safety, for the thermometers, maybe things to clean our buses more quickly. But it's pretty daunting, the task we have ahead of us. And we've got some guidance documents from the state. I think I sent that to you guys. Quite honestly, it's more questions than answers. And I don't even know that I fought them because it's just, there are so many scenarios to plan for. But basically, we're meeting every day seemingly all day with one group or another trying to think through this. And one thing we'll probably do before long, we'll probably send out a survey to our folks, our community parents and all, asking some questions. You know, we need to know how many of them have internet access. And if we have to go to some version of NTI next year or some blended version where some are at school and some are home. Now, can you imagine what that may look like? But that may be what we're facing. You know, how do we accommodate next year our high-risk kids? How do we accommodate kids with parents or grandparents or guardians who are high risk? How do we accommodate ones who are legitimately afraid to send their kids back? You know, when church is open, that doesn't mean everybody's immediately going to go back. You know, some are going to wait. They're still going to be nervous about it. How do we handle that with our kids? We don't want to lose them. We don't want to lose a single child. So how do we accommodate them? That's the conversations we're having now. And there are so many different versions and scenarios that could play out. Like I said, it's a big task. The good news, unlike TVA, the good news is every school in the state's in the same boat. So we're having conversations. I was on a webcast this morning with several from KSA and several other superintendents. And, you know, we're all having the same questions. So if somebody comes up with a good idea, they immediately share it. Now we all have that idea. So that's a positive, but there are a lot of things to be considered there. How do we catch kids up who are already behind? Because NTI instruction, although we did the very best we could, it's not the same as being there with the teacher in front of you. So they've already missed out on some time. How do we catch them up? And then next year, if there's NTI worked in as well, how do we get better at what we did? What did we learn from this year? So if we have stretches of NTI next year, we can better accommodate our kids. You know, do we use some of that CARES money for computers, for laptops? So, you know, our kids can have those, but even if they have a laptop, they may not have Wi-Fi. They may not have the ability to use it. So those are just a few of the things that we're facing. All I can tell you is that we are trying to deal with them. We're working on different committees, groups getting together. And right now we're just trying to determine the right questions. And from that, I hope that we can, as we get closer, we have some better idea of what it may look like. I will tell you, some districts, the word is out there on trying to maybe do an A-B group, and one group go Monday, Wednesday of kids, and one group go Tuesday, Thursday. If you really dig into that and you start thinking about it, because you don't want any more than half the normal kids in a classroom, the high school, you think 7 periods of trying to work out schedules where there's exactly 50% all the way through? I don't see how it can be done, I'll be honest. But we're talking about it. Elementary would be a little easier to control. High school seemingly would be impossible. Maybe there's folks out there that can figure that out. But that is something floated around. You know, do you go a week at a time with one group and another week? So, you know, you're going to get a lot of questions from folks when you're out there. You know, what are they going to do? We don't know. We're working on it. We're working on a lot of different things. Right now, there's more questions than answers, just to be quite honest with you. But the entire state's in the same boat. So I got a hunch we'll figure it out sooner or later. It feels like you're going to do a lot of planning, and then last minute, there's going to be a lot of really big decisions have to be made pretty quickly. That's kind of the way it feels like it's going to shake out. Getting some questions about daycare. We have 3 elementaries with daycare, and the governor has came out and said, I think maybe June 15th, they may you may be able to start daycare back. Very hesitant on that here, I'll be honest with you. We have no guidance whatsoever now from the state or from our health department. So right now we haven't heard anything. My thoughts are probably we would want to wait till early July and see what kinks there are, and maybe not at all. I know that's a big need for parents, so it's something we want to consider. But right now, if they're going to have to be in mask and they're going to have to do that, and they're 3 and 4 years old, or some of the younger ones, I say, and you got to keep them apart from each other, that seems pretty daunting. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. So if they ask, we have no guidance yet. So anything I would say would be speculation, other than I don't want to be the first one to open. I would prefer to let a couple of weeks go by at least, see what the problems are, see how it goes, and maybe go from there. Because as big as of a need as it is, and I know it is, the safety of those kids and the staff needs to be paramount. So maybe the guidance will be very clear, and we can talk more clearly about it at a later time. But I did want to mention daycare. It's out there. I just don't know anything at all right now. It makes me nervous. I'll put it that way. Graduation plans. I'm gonna bring Donna in here now. I want to credit her. She's going to credit some other people. I know how she's going to do, and they deserve it. But this brainchild was hers, and a lot of other plans, and I guarantee you, spent a lot of hours working through this. And she called us all over there about a month ago, 3 weeks. I don't know. I lose track now. And I'm hoping it'll be a very meaningful, memorable experience for our kids. It's not traditional. It's not as good. It's not the same as you can invite aunt and uncle and all the people. We can't do that. But she has tried to make it as real as possible, with the promise still that we'll go back if it's whenever, sometime September, October, December, and we'll have one when we can, where everybody can come and see it. We'll do it again. So I'm gonna turn it over to Donna though and let her talk about it. It's tomorrow night. I'm sure she's a little nervous about it. I think they've been practicing some today. All I've got is to stand on the back of the stage and stand out of the way. She's done all the work, she and her folks. So Donna, talk to them a little bit about tomorrow night, please.
Thanks, Robbie. I appreciate that and the support. Yeah, it is tomorrow night, and as the hours get a little closer to time, I get a little angsty. So I'll start with this beginning statement, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you I'm going to end with this statement too. If you're a praying person, pray now and pray often for nice weather. Because if anything at all, we want that to be what's there for the kids. I've got to give a big shout out to our law enforcement. We've had 2 meetings, one here at school and then one at Central City. And I can't thank Sheriff Allen and Chief Harvey and Chief Needle enough, and Chief Barr, just everybody coming together and how much their help is going to mean so much to us. The community business, in talking about this COVID-19 times, we realize that everyone has been suffering. So lucky for us, it's actually been a moment for us to be able to call and say, hey, here's an idea. Do you think you can do it for us? And Paragon, commercial printing, central screen, affordable signs. I'm sure there's somebody I'm missing, but I mean, all those guys have been helpful. And again, helping them out too during this terrible time. I've got to give a shout out to Central Office, particularly Carla, Julie, and Melody. When it comes to wordsmithing, I send them my thoughts and they either fix it or they give me a 2 thumbs up. And because I know sometimes I get in a hurry in what I type, and they've been right on it and giving me that immediate feedback. And being that also that liaison between us and the health department, because that was such a huge piece of tomorrow night's event, is making sure that our local health department and Kathy Bethel was on board for us before we could even go down that road. So it's been a huge help. I have to thank, Ken, Carrie, Brad, Adam, Jerry have been a huge help. Beth Fleming's been our true liaison between the school and the seniors and trying to make sure the communication's there. As a matter of fact, today I was able to see some of the seniors. It was so good to see them. But our co-valedictorians came out today to begin to have a little practice with their speech, because the kids were getting a little nervous. They haven't been behind a microphone, and we're using a different group that we're not used to using. We're used to keeping everything in ourselves. So it was good to see those kiddos today and practicing, and they felt better in doing so. Unfortunately, Courtney and Logan did not get to practice their song today. About the time everything got set up and the sound was going, that's when the rain decided to happen. But the people at Songbird, they stayed around, let the other kids who had speaking parts speak. And then Logan and Courtney said, you know what? We'll just come at 4 o'clock tomorrow before graduation. Because I went out there to go check on them, and they told me their plan. They came up the plan to sacrifice. I'll just show up, be ready for graduation. We'll do a run through at 4 o'clock, and then we'll go on to the Ag Center. I mean, that just speaks volumes for these kids and how excited they are for even having the opportunity. I need to also say that Missy Thompson and Jennifer Hardison and Jessica Skates have played a huge role in helping with tomorrow night too. With the senior banners, and thanks to Muhlenberg Achieves, I know I mentioned them last time. The senior banners, we have had so many people that just pass by here at West Campus and looking at those. And to be quite honest, we have people just showing up, sitting getting their chairs out of the back seat of their car and just sitting in our parking lot and just looking at everything from a distance. So that's been really neat to see and very helpful to them. And of course, our tech guys have been phenomenal in working with Songbird and getting ready for tomorrow night too. So our valedictorians, I want to share that with you all. We have co-valedictorians this year, and they are Madeline Drake and Lauren Ford, and then our salutatorian is Cassidy White. So those girls have done a lot of hard work throughout their 4 years of high school, and that's obviously paid off for them. So as I said, I'm gonna end it by saying pray. If you're a praying person, pray for great weather. I encourage you all to come out tomorrow night, line up along the highway to welcome the kids, because I think they're probably most excited about the parade than they may be even the ceremony itself. And just an opportunity for everything. So thanks, Robbie.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I hope that bypass is lined up with vehicles and lights flashing and all that. That's going to be pretty cool for them. So, yeah, thanks again, Donna, and to everybody that made that happen. Jump into feeding now. Obviously, our transportation department, Kim Dukes and Joe Cooper and food service have been amazing. Joe, are you on here, Joe?
I am.
Talk a little bit, Joe, about I think we're extended maybe to August, and anything you want to bring up about what's going on in your world.
Well, I did get an email from KDE, and they have extended this program and through August the 30th. So we will be doing what we're doing right now, which is we will deliver meals on Tuesday, and we do about 30,000 meals a week. And I could not do it without all the volunteer help that I've had from the teachers and aides, the bus drivers, the central office staff. It's just been amazing how many people have helped me. Teachers, it's just been great. A lot of the central office staff have come over and helped me get bags. Mr. Davis and Eric, they try to show up and, do a little bit on Tuesdays, but you know how that goes, guys. But no, I'm just kidding. They lift all the heavy stuff, and I appreciate that. But Kim Dukes is amazing. If you all don't know that, I'm telling you, she is amazing. Couldn't do it without her. We've got bus drivers that have already committed to me to work all summer. I've got staff that's going to work. I have aides from different schools that told me they would. And so I'm very blessed. Muhlenberg County is very blessed. And we're going to keep doing this just as long as we can.
Thank you, Joe. I'll give Matt a little shout out too. I know Matt's at South Elementary every Tuesday helping load and ride buses or whatever there. So it's truly been a team effort. Joe, you got to give Joe extra credit, and Kim too. But other than that, it's been a team effort. You don't know who's a teacher, who's an aide, who's a what. You're just putting your a hard hat on and going out there and doing what's best for kids and loading those buses. So it's pretty inspiring. It's hard work, the loading, but it's pretty inspiring. Talk really briefly about the merging of schools still. We talked about trying to get our high school kids all on one campus, not next year, but the year after. I get a lot of questions about that now, certainly in light of what's going on with the COVID-19 and the TVA funds. What we're doing now is we are still waiting on KDE to approve our committee. Melody's taking care of that, our facilities committee. We're going to try to continue moving forward in hopes that we can go the year after next, that it works out until we hit a big enough snag where we can't. So I know Eric and Scott Knoll are working now on trying to actually quantify the cost savings of that, because that's more important than ever But, it's certainly more than that. We truly think it's best for our kids to do that, and it's best for our staff. I believe that. So if you can add cost savings in there too, you got to win. One of the tricky things is the cafeteria would need to be upgraded, and that costs money. So that's what we got to try to figure out. Can you do that? Spend that money. No more money back on the back end. TVA has complicated that, but we are still moving forward. Like I said, until we basically hit a big enough snag that we got to say, hey, we need to sit back and wait another year. But our hopes now are the same as they were. That's kind of where we are. We're in a holding pattern now because of KDE. So hopefully we'll get approval of that soon. One last thing, Sherry wanted me to remind you, you probably got an email, folks, on summer leadership. There's some virtual training you can get. I think it's July, I can't read my writing, 11th to 12th or something. I think it says July. I don't know. Sherry
10th and 11th.
There you go. Sherry will send that out again if needed, but just remember, I know you still have to get your hours in. Not as much charter school hours this time, that did pass, but it'll be virtual this time, so that'll be your first opportunity, I think. And barring questions, I think that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. On the school bus thing, we were talking about this, some girls at work, about the recommendations and how to social distance. And you said what you all had already figured, like 8 kids a bus, is that right?
Yeah.
Around 8. So if that is, I guess, instituted or whatever, recommended by the governor, how in the world would every school district in Kentucky get their kids to school? I mean, can you imagine Jefferson and Fayette and all of them as big as they are? I mean, unbelievable.
It changes by the time.
Yeah,
that's,
absolutely.
That's impossible, but that's what we are right now.
Because how many kids is Kim's on here? Kim Dukes, how many kids are supposed to sit on each bus? I mean, about how many is it seat? Is it 63?
Well, the seats are designed for 3 students per seat.
Oh, okay.
Three 10-inch rumps per seat. So, yeah, it would be nearly impossible to get everybody to school by start time.
Yeah.
Some people said we'd have to start, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning if we ever wanted to do that. So.
Right. You'd almost have to have like double runs or triple runs.
Yeah, yes.
And then also, Robbie, just a question, throwing it out there, but if we did the alternate schooling, I know you probably are just like, like Monday, Tuesday for some, and then say Wednesday, Thursday for others, whatever. I just wonder if there's any studies out there that maybe show, like, with doing that, if there's maybe a decrease in the number of kids that are homeschooled, or, like a decrease in the number of absentees from, the kids not having to go every single day. So would there, if there's any studies that show that maybe they have more attendance?
Yeah, I don't know. What you're worried about is, I understand that, but if you're only teaching them 2 days, then you're missing out on 3 full days of instruction. And you say, well, the NTI the other day, or what if a camera's on the teacher? And, now we're running into technology problems. So it just seemingly, you keep going down rabbit holes and keep hitting dead ends. So honestly, that alternating schedule is something to me that seems very, it's not one I think I would want to go down. You run into daycare problems with your parents. How do they, some days they have, days they don't. We want to consider our parents as best we can on top of all these other factors. So, it's like every time you bring something up, I'm not trying to shoot it down. That's just what we're facing now. We keep running into problems as we plan for any one scenario.
Right. Well, and just another thought I jotted down just to bring up. So like with the NTI days that we've had, and you're talking about, what was working, what wasn't working, is there a way that we are going to maybe survey parents for their input as well? I know you said you're going to try to find out like what kind of internet, if they have internet capabilities or not. I know some people, they may not have internet in the home, but yet maybe they have, just like a data package on a phone or something like that. And if we can, if we're going to survey parents on actually what type of internet or data they have that's available to the students, and maybe than what the parents have thought about the NTI, what they felt like, if there wasn't enough communication, if there was too much communication, if there was, enough availability, if their child or children had issues with, getting an assignment completed or not understanding something or anything like that. I think it'll be good to get the input from parents somehow, as to what they felt like their students, and children experienced during this.
We're working on a survey. Actually, I sent one out today. We got from another district where they were kind of working on one. And we may kind of tweak it a little bit, make it ours. But yes, we'll be sending something out. It's like, how do you do the survey? Because, if you think about it, if you put a survey out on Facebook or on our Facebook where they can access it, and you say, do you have internet access? Well, if you don't have internet access, you can't
You're
answer.
not going to see it, right?
So we've got to think of it. We're probably putting one out where I think Chad will have to help with this. But, are you a parent? Are you a teacher? Are you a whatever? And then you can break it apart. And that's way over my head. I'll look at the data, but I sure can't set it up. So, but we started that. I sent one out today. I think Brett County has done one, and we took theirs, and we'll try to see, if we can make it ours and do something like that. But absolutely, we need to hear from the parents.
Yeah, I think so too. That's all my comments.
As far as
All right.
transportation, do you think it would be possible they could require, parents or guardians to get kids to school to eliminate that problem, or?
I haven't heard that, but I've wondered about that. And, if you do that, the ones who, maybe the ones who are in toughest circumstances are the ones who we would most need that. Maybe they don't have internet, and, it may kind of double up in that end because, and then honestly, on the other end, you wonder, what about transportation and how, what are we going to do with all those folks and how are we going to utilize them? So, yes, that is one thing. Say, hey, only the ones who can bring their kids. Well, you run into some equity problems there. Are we serving those other folks equally?
Right.
So, but yes, that's the kind of things we're thinking about.
That might be something you could address on a survey as well. Would they have the capability of getting to school without a bus?
Yeah.
Do you know the breakdown of how many students ride a bus and how many students get brought each day?
I don't know that number. Eric, would you happen to know that number, or Lee?
I'm not positive on that, to be honest with you.
No more questions. We haven't had any answers yet. So we're over 10.
Yeah, we could run a report. We could give a number of kids that are transported listed as T1 and non-transported. So we could do that. But you also got to understand there's a margin of error there, but it's pretty accurate. But yeah, we could get a ballpark.
There was questions brought up at one of the surveys, or that they'd put out some information that they'd put out about how many kids could walk to school, and just like you said, how many parents could take them. And those questions have been brought up also elsewhere. So that is something that, we maybe need to survey.
And
we are rural, but it's, we've got kids. I know mine goes from one end of the county to the other. So, and we're not alone, there's kids everywhere in this county. We have such a large county, but the kids are spread out, that's already, kind of a problem for our transportation,
But Chairman Ray, if you think about it, all of our grandparents walk to school every day, uphill both ways in the snow.
In 10 feet of snow.
So maybe we may have to go back to that. I have to check with Daryl.
Yeah, he'll be our expert for that.
Y'all laugh about
He's
that.
the same age as my mom, I know. Oh, goodness.
I'll get her later, wingman.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's see. We've done talk so much. Did Lee do his enrollment report, attendance and enrollment?
Yeah, he'll tell you something.
Okay.
Okay. I sent the 9th month ended yesterday. I sent this to Sherry. I'm hoping that she was able to send this last minute to you all. But basically what we have, obviously with all our 20 days for the 9th month, which by the way ended today. So we had about a week of carryover with kids out of school as far as NTI. But basically, our attendance for this month and for the year ended at 93.64, which was up almost a quarter of a point from last year, from 93.43. The enrollment, we closed at 4387, which was down 111. Last year we closed at 4498. So I was hoping we could stay around that 450 mark, but we didn't. So that's down a little over 100 from last year. So that's where we stand now. Again, Eric may allude to this in his financial budget, but for our SEEK allocation for next year starting out, we're going to be able to do. We're taking the 18-19 SAR report, which is basically the enrollments that I give you each month. It's the end of the year cumulative. Throw in some transportation and some things like that. So this year, even though our attendance is up, we're going to be getting our funds based on last year. And that's what almost every district is doing, just because of the number of days that you don't get transportation costs replenished for NTI, and we had 38 days. So I'm sure he'll touch base on that. But that's what I have as far as our the attendance report for the 9th month. Any questions?
Any questions? All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Lee, very much. At this time, we'll move on down to our board action items. And I'm sorry if you can hear my husband out there talking. I told him to be quiet. Man. Anyway, board action item A is consider approving non-traditional instruction day application for the 2020-2021 school year. Hang on, I'm gonna put this on mute just 1 second. He acts like I'm not working here.
That's nice, whatever you said to him.
Yeah, I'm getting messages. I can hear him. Duct tape next month. All right. So the non-traditional instruction days, are we back on track now?
Okay.
Lee, thank you.
No problem. Okay. Hey, first of all, Mr. Chairman, board members, basically going to ask tonight to approve an NTI application for our school year 2021. Basically, the state has advised us, all districts, to fill out a application for NTI for next year. Again, we were under the emergency waiver group this past year, and so obviously we feel like that if they're asking us to do this, this gives us a little bit more flexibility with things next year. Just even if it's a regular school year or not. So basically, now here's the current legislation, which you have to understand regarding this. As of right now, a district only has 10 days that they can use for non-traditional instruction, which obviously most days districts use this are for weather, as far as inclement weather. But that's it right now. That's it. All districts for right now. If we start out next year, unless you have some type of legislation or some type of movement recommendation from the governor, there's only going to be 10 days. Now, obviously that could change, but I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Just a couple things I wanted to make note in the application. The application is a little bit more detailed than the one we had to submit back in March for the emergency. But one of the things that we did include is just because of our technology, we still included the concept of paper packets as well, but we also included technology. So it's a little bit of both, which I feel like we need no matter what. Because you're going to have some kids, no matter if you give them a Chromebook or an iPad or whatever, as Mr. Davis says, they're still not going to have access with Wi-Fi. So we have included that. Obviously, we've included a lot of technology and software. I think our teachers started implementing that as we did the NTI. We're hoping that we don't have to use it, but this is just something that we feel like that with the state recommendation, it's sort of a smart move considering how next year's starting to pan out.
So this is just for the 10 days, like prior to all the COVID, what we would have done to have NTI in our school district.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But then I guess if there's any kind of emergency type thing, such as the COVID, that will just go at that time and at date.
Right. And so for example, what would happen is if we didn't do this and they come out, say that COVID was still out there, they would probably allow districts to do an emergency waiver. Well, we wouldn't have to do that if this is approved. Okay. Our application would already be in.
Okay.
All right.
Gotcha.
And if you do approve this, there is I'm wanting to get this in pretty quickly because the deadline is the middle of June, but if they're willing to work with us, if they kick out something. So I think that Sherry or Robbie was able to give you, Stephanie, there's a sheet that's going to require your signature.
Yes.
I'll have to get and scan an image and send with the application. Okay. If y'all decide to approve this. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I make a motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by, was that Kim?
Yes.
Okay, by Ms. Bard. All in favor of approving the non-traditional instructional day application for the 2021 school year, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. We'll go down to B, consider bidding DOT physicals for the 2021 school year. Ms. Browning?
Hello, everybody. Basically, this is something that we do every year. It's just putting out the bid that we do annually for the Department of Transportation physicals for our bus drivers. So I'm asking to be able to place that bid out.
Okay. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
And second by, who was that?
Susan.
Okay. Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of consider bidding the DOT physicals for the 2021 school year, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And we're down to item C, consider annual KDE audit contract. Eric?
Thank you, Chairman Rager. This is just the standard contract we fill out every year that the KDE requires. We've already got a contract in place with Car Rigs and Ingram, but this is the one that we have to submit to the state that has all the requirements and regulations that KDE requires. So I ask that you approve this.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Bowers made a motion.
Second.
And second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of approving or considering the annual KDE audit contract, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And we'll go to item D, consider 2021 tentative budget. Eric?
All right, let me try to share this again here. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, can you see the full screen version, or is it I think it's messed up. Let me try it.
Full.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Is that better?
It looks the same on my end, but
Okay, well, it switched to presenter mode on mine. It did it really odd this time, sorry. All right, so this is a tentative budget. We're just gonna jump right into considerations on this time. So we're looking at revenue changes over time. Obviously, this is something that has come to the forefront now. So we're really concerned with long-term sustainability. Where does TVA fit in with that? What kind of things can we do to help mitigate that? We're looking at everything, every cost reduction we can right now. And what effect is that reduction going to have? So we're trying to get things squared away as quickly as possible, but we're also concerned about recruitment and retention, and then pension form expenses. Fortunately, they kept the CERS rate the same as last year, so we don't have really, the only increase from CERS is going to be the effect of raises on the, or not raises, excuse me, the effect of step raises. And then if there are any major projects needed, we do have a couple that we obviously with if there's any consolidation that occurs, and some their maintenance issues kind of falls in that same category of the major projects needed. So we're really scrutinizing those, that what absolutely has to be done now, and what can be put off a little bit longer. And unfortunately, we didn't want to have to put some things off, but now it looks like we're going to have to go down that road. So the revenue line items, the notables, we increased the beginning balance because I do still think we're going to finish up a little bit higher at the end of the year. SEEK was increased by 2.13% because we, as Mr. Freeman said, we're using the 18-19 ADA data, which had some more students in there. However, they're still going to make that adjustment in the fall. So that was about a $400,000 increase, but we think it's probably going to be adjusted to close to $200,000 when I talk to Lee about those things and whatnot. And so, the on behalf was increased proportionate to salaries. We decreased unmined minerals by 150,000 and TVA by 4.7 million. So that's the big thing. Obviously we've got the balance in the bank right now. That's kind of going to keep us so that we don't have to take any ultra drastic measures. It gives us some time to make adjustments and look at things over time. So, that's a positive thing. And really, in some of my projections, I think, really, I'm looking at how much reductions do we have to make to buy us one more year, That's some of those things that Robbie and I are talking about. So every time I figure out something, I kind of run into his office and say, hey, I think I figured this out a little bit. But that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of revenue line item notables. So general fund revenues, our local revenues is at 10 million. That's, decreased by about that 4.7. So previously it was about almost 15 million. The state revenue with the SEEK, it's at 18,976,000. If you recall, that was just a little bit under that previously. So now, obviously we got to increase that a little bit. Beginning balance, that about 17.5 million. Medicaid, we're keeping it at 200,000. I think there are going to be some things where we can increase some of that revenue when Cindy came and talked to me today. But I do think, I think we'll be able to do some things with that. So our total general fund revenues, including beginning balance, about 58.3 million. So the expense line item notables, increased salary expense by 1.5%. That's from the draft budget, actually. So, that's just a carryover from that. Again, some of these are just carryover things that we discussed already, but we're just kind of leaving them in for right now. And those are the things that we're scrutinizing. So, the cameras and the SRO, those are things that we've been talking about. We budgeted 220,000 to vehicles and transportation. I think this right now is a good time to leave this in because of some of the Volkswagen rebates that we think we're going to be able to get this year. They're not competitive according to what I've been told so far. So we might be able to get more vehicles than just 2 buses with that 220,000. I'm kind of hoping we can get 3 to 4 possibly.
Maybe one will be free.
Hey, well, you know, buy 2, get 2 free. I don't know, but but hopefully, and then after this year is when we're going to really start kind of scrutinizing that again. And you know, unfortunately, we're going to have to look at maintenance costs versus the cost of new ones. And I hate to do that, but we're going to have to kind of try to look at where we can save where we can. So we still have the roof repair funds that have been allocated to West Campus, and that's something that we're looking at and scrutinizing. But what we really want to do is make sure that we're not cutting it to the detriment of, you know, the structure. So that's something that we're absolutely looking at. I'm talking with Jimmy and Robbie and Melody about frequently on how do we continue forward with that, or if we can. And here's one that, you know, I previously budgeted 200,000 for resurfacing at East Campus. That might be something where we look at changing that.
Is that for the driveways and roads going in?
Yeah, and it's really more so the bus turnaround because it's really chewed up. Mm-hmm. But kind of wondering if, you know, if we can pull one more year out of it. We might have to at this point, just so we can, you know, if we have to shift funds into the consolidation of campuses to, if there are big projects that we need to do there, I'd rather kind of save some of that money for that and then look at what future savings are going to generate in order to cover the cost of some of these things. So it's you know, you want to take it from your right pocket or left pocket, but we're kind of trying to make sure that we're doing it right at this time.
You know, Eric, let me just jump in a second if I could.
Yeah.
The conversations we're having now when you get into a bit of a budget crunch is how much do we have to think short term and how much can we still think long term, make good long-term decisions, because sometimes you just have to do something right now knowing you're going to pay the piper down the road. And those are the conversations we're having, you know, on so many different scenarios, be it the roof, be it the resurfacing, be it the type of wax we use. You know, if you think short term too much, that's not wise, but you just continually make long-term good decisions, but you know, you're costing too much short term, we may not be in a position to do that. So those are the conversations we're having all the way through. And Eric, you may have it on here, but while I'm thinking about it, some good news, I want you to make sure you mention the bond payments that will be coming off over the next, you know, this year and in a few years before you're done. Okay, well, I'll go over that right now then, because really I'm getting into general fund expenditures, but instructions about 31 million, contingency has been dropped down to about 9.7. So I mean that's where we're really going to see some things get eaten into. Community services about 490,000, transportation about 4.46. That's something that I know Kim has worked at trying to lower costs, and still some of the stuff that we're asking her about is, you know, consolidation of routes and those things. She's really good at that. So I'll give her credit for that. And plant operations and maintenance at 6.7. Again, this is something where Jimmy's team just goes above and beyond. So, but some of the things that the school admin support and business support service, you know, that's where some of our bond payments are, as Robbie mentioned, but those, we've got about $390,000 in payments rolling off at the end of this year. And then in about 3 to 4 years, we've got about another 790,000, I think. It's close to 1.1 million that we're going to be dropping off in the next 4 to 5 years. So that's one area of savings that we're going to try to
mitigate and not have to, increase bond payments in the future. And I'm also always looking at refinancing them to lower that and save when we can. So, I mean, and interest rates, as they drop, I'm still talking, but some of it has to do with timing and whatnot. So, committed funds, we've got the major renovation items that we've talked about, and then retirement commitment. So, are there any questions?
Hey, Eric.
Yes, ma'am.
Refresh my memory on the salary expense by 1.5%. What encompasses that?
That's mainly just the step raises, and so and that includes the buffer on like PD days or tutoring and those sorts of things. I always add that in there, and it usually falls in line pretty well. So just to give us a little bit of, I don't expect it to hit that, but I like to give myself that much room. Now I will say that, on the general fund, the loss of TVA revenue has significantly bumped up our percentage and salary things, and those are in salary expense. It's actually over 100% with that. But I will make a huge statement on that, is that should we be able to mitigate some of the TVA losses, and as we start gaining more and more savings in our accounts payable areas and those sorts of things, I think we'll be able to mitigate those things.
We hope.
Because that's the percentage we were down, mid-80s?
Yeah, and really as we, when we tried to drop the TVA funds, it went into the low 90s, high 80s. But even then, it was still, I felt comfortable just because of the long-term projections on where we were, as people retired and consolidations and those sorts of things. As we were able to, over time, we were perfectly fine. And it did not stress me to where I was worried significantly about that, just because of the way our projections were looking. And if something drastic had happened, well, not drastic, I should say, let me rephrase that. If some changes were made, the way it was set up, it gave us time to react. So now we have time to react a little bit, but it's not nearly what we really need. So, I mean, I don't mean, I think we can obviously recover. I think we'll we'll make it, but I'm looking to see if legislation will help us.
Thank you. And I do want to say, I know ever since I've been on the last 2 or 3 years, you all have been very diligent in communicating with the state and with TVA, trying to get an answer. So it's not like you haven't done everything, I believe, in your power to get a committed answer from them. So I appreciate all your diligence in doing that.
It's been tough. I mean, Robbie and I have gone there and talked to numerous people, and as soon as I found out that number, I was on the phone that day to KDE, to the legislation, and saying, hey, what can be done? Let me tell you what we've already done. And the people at KDE know what we have done. So they've seen what we did previously, and so they've kind of, they're listening, but we still need some help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions or discussion? If not, I need a motion to consider the 2021 tentative budget.
I make a motion.
A motion by Ms. Wells.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowers. And all in favor of considering the 2021 tentative budget, say aye.
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 Thank
All opposed? I hear none. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
And then we're down to the board consent agenda items. This is approval of our minutes of the prior board meeting, considering approval of the creation of paid emergency leave for the 2019-20 year. Consider emergency certification block of up to 5 positions for teaching positions within the Muhlenberg County School District. Approve leave of absences, and also to the new added item from the beginning of the meeting to consider the fiscal year 21 principals combining budget. I think everyone had a chance to look over all of that. Any questions?
Nope.
If not, I need a motion to approve the board consent agenda items.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Bowers.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bard. All in favor of considering the board consent agenda items, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And before we adjourn, I just want to congratulate all of our 2020 graduates. And I know this is supposed to be a very exciting time of year for them, and hopefully it still will be, maybe in a different way. But we're all, as a board, I'm going to speak on behalf of everyone. We're very, very proud of all of our graduates and hope the weather is fair tomorrow night and they all can have a good time.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's why we're here.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Go class of 2020. Make us proud. All right. At this time, I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
A motion by Mr. Bowers and a second by
Susan.
Susan. All right. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.